The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah! Go Cowboys! Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Ambar Garcia, Bryan Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Thursday, October 10th, 2024, Season 20, Episode number 46. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're presented by LG. LG is the world's #1 OLED TV brand for 11 years and counting. See why at lg.com/OLED Evo. How's everybody doing?
Doing well. Cannot complain.
Yeah.
Cannot complain.
So you got on your Duncanville
Yep.
DeSoto game.
Yep.
Sweatshirt.
It's going to be fun tomorrow night down at DeSoto. So heard they had 150 media requests this week. So
That's insane.
yeah, that's more than they deal with here sometimes.
In
So
case you
it's,
didn't know what high school football is like in Texas,
Yep.
that's what high school football is like in Texas. It is a draw.
2 top 10 teams in the nation. Yeah, that's what it's going to bring.
I live about 10 minutes from the Allen Stadium where Kyler Murray went to high school, and a bunch of other NFL players have gone to high school. And it's like on a Friday night when there's a home game, you don't want to be in that area because it's gridlock. Trying to get in and out of there it's madness. So.
It makes me wonder about that apartment complex. It's like right next to AT&T,
I know.
right next to the Walmart.
Yeah.
Like how do they live?
Would you want that? Like
No,
some people might be like, "Hey,
no.
that's great. I got access. I can just walk to and from the stadium if I want to go to
Absolutely not.
games." And
You know what? If you're a single guy and you're into sports,
fair,
because you can go walk to the baseball park too.
yeah. So you got all of that,
See,
right?
there's some. I remember like living in Philly when they had like the hockey arena and the basketball arena.
Mm-hmm.
The vet was the baseball and the football, but you could walk across the street, and if you lived in the area, if you were into that, you could go to an event every night if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You go watch the 76ers play, Flyers play. On the weekend, you catch the Eagles. You know, it was pretty cool if you were just into that stuff.
And now they've built up that area. You got all kinds of stuff in that area
Yeah.
within walking distance if you live there, as far as just kind of hanging out, watching games on. Even if you're not going to the game, you can go down there to a couple places
Right.
where you can watch the game. And
Six Flags.
so yeah, Six Flags right there. Yeah, so it's not a bad one if you're a young single person,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking if you got a family,
Oh, not
You
this
might
guy.
gonna
find
pass
somebody
on
that
that.
likes football in your life or sports.
maybe
You never know.
Maybe.
I just know my luck. I would need to get to like downtown Dallas at 2 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, and
Good
the
luck.
Cowboys play at noon, and it takes me an hour and a half to just get out of my apartment complex, and that's where I draw the line.
Man, you just zip right down there and hang a left, and you're on 30.
You hang a left on Randall Mill. and-
Yeah. Come on, man. What are we
just
doing?
just hope that the street isn't blocked off. Just hope that you
Yes.
can actually get
That's
out the
the
window.
Going the
worst.
opposite
It
way,
is.
you're
That's
pretty
the
good.
worst when
Yeah,
you're headed
that's
to the
true.
stadium
That is
and
true.
they have a blocked street, and now you're like, oh great, and
Where
you
am I
got to
going?
turn around
You guys
all
got
the
to
way
get there
around.
4 hours before the game.
You have
Which
to
is
get there
what we
4
do.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Get
key.
there early.
There was one game last year where I didn't get there in time, and I had to deal with all that mess. It took me like 45 minutes to get in, and I was
Yeah.
like, never doing this
Yeah,
again.
that's why we get there.
Did you
so
catch
early.
the chatty parking attendant in lot 3?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every
our
game.
friend,
Yeah.
our guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've known
Very
him
chatty.
for years because he also does the Texas high school football state championships.
Yeah.
But he kind of runs in with the media with those guys because he tries to tell them where to park, and they're like, no, we're not doing that. So they park in the front row, and he loses his mind. But
Every time.
he's an interesting fella. He,
Nice guy.
He
I've
tells me
seen
I'm
Derek.
late
Derek
every
doesn't
week.
even stop. He just keeps going.
Well,
and then he'll just. He's
I'm
like,
in a
owns the
hurry.
place, so.
I'm in a hurry. I got to get parked, get
I'm
inside.
like, okay.
Have things to do. But I do wave. I always wave at him. Just say
Now
acknowledge
he's
the fact
like,
he's there.
I remember the wave. Like, I don't have time that way.
How you doing?
It's that. Thank you. You know the classic
I don't
Brian.
need any
Thank
help,
you.
but
Thank you.
thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Supposed
Keep
to be here.
walking.
Thank you.
Yep.
Supposed to be here. Thank you.
All right, let's talk some Cowboys football. Let's get into some of the injury updates. Actually, some positive things coming from the Cowboys. We look at the injury report. Deron Bland, Kalen Carson, Trayvon Diggs, Tyler Guyton, all full participants yesterday in practice, according to the practice report. That's a positive sign, obviously, for them heading into this game where they're about to face a really good offense, particularly couple things did pop up of interest, though. Eric Kendricks did not practice due to a calf and shoulder injury. Marquise Bell also out of practice. What are we hearing about those guys?
Yeah, so I think something to keep an eye on as the week goes on is obviously great news on the Deron Bland and Kalen Carson front. You would want one or both of those guys back for a Detroit game against the skill group that's really talented. But I think specifically for Eric Kendricks, he's dealing with a calf and a shoulder, did not practice. When he went down in week 1 for a couple of drives because he was dealing with dehydration, needed to go to the locker room and get an IV, Nick Vigil was the guy who stepped in and filled in his for Green Dot responsibilities. He also did not practice yesterday. So if both of those guys potentially cannot go on Sunday, then who are you looking at to be the Green Dot to be able to manage the defense? That's going to be a really big task for whoever has to take that on, whether it's Malik Hooker in the third level or it's Overshown, but it's still young for him.
Could it not be Clark? I mean,
so you wonder about
You wonder
DeMond
how
Clark.
much Clark is going to play.
You wonder how.
yeah, I just wonder if
Yeah.
this would be the
Yeah.
opportunity where he would play and you would put him maybe in that kind of situation.
You definitely wonder about DeMond Clark as well. I think Buddy Johnson. You wonder about it could be a range of guys. I think there's probably 6 candidates there that could fill that responsibility, but you don't know who that's going to be if one of those two or both of those guys cannot go.
How much of a loss would that be if Kendrick couldn't play? Is that pretty significant?
Yeah.
I would say so, especially against this running game.
We got into it a little bit yesterday about this team is going to challenge your linebackers, much like the Saints challenged your linebackers, the Ravens challenged your linebackers. These guys are the same way with they run the ball. Dallas has lost games where their linebackers haven't been able to be free. You know, the games they've won, the Browns didn't really block them, Giants didn't block them, Steelers didn't block them. You know, this is going to be a different animal. Like we talked about yesterday, these linemen, they're not interested in securing. They trust each other that they're going to shove a guy and go to the next guy. They're not going to sit around and try and. The Steelers would try and double the one technique or double the 3 and then get to the second level. These guys are just like what you dealt with the Ravens and the Saints. It's a shove and a go. So, you know, his ability, I mean, I think every week he leads the team in tackles. He's one of the top, 1 or 2 guys when it comes to tackles every week for you. So not having Kendricks in this game would be, or limited, would be a big, big blow.
Assuming that would be the case. Let's say that if that was the case, is Damone the guy that now is going to get those extra snaps, and you're looking at him with Leafau and Overshown?
That's in the case of Vigil and Kendricks not
Yeah,
playing.
assuming both those guys are out. Yeah.
That would be my assumption. I mean, that's the guy who should fill in that role. I mean, he had the Green Dot responsibilities last year.
Right.
But again, this is a different defense. He's kind of seen himself fall out of the rotation with the linebackers. I don't think he played a defensive snap the entire game against the Steelers, and was very limited against the Giants if he had any.
Which is crazy.
It is. To go from where he was last year to that.
Well, we've kind of talked about things that Mike Zimmer likes about his defensive players. You better be knowing what you're supposed to do. And assignment sound. Are you making mistakes? Are you picking it up?
You've noticed a lot of that when you're looking at the times.
Are you
that he's
practicing well? All those things. Are you picking things up? That's the thing. Are you out of positions? Another thing.
This could be an opportunity for him to be able to fill in and kind of rectify all of those mistakes that he made early in the season, because against the Ravens, he stepped in the fourth quarter. He made some really nice plays, and that was kind of the beginning of seeing his snaps taken away because he didn't get into the game defensively until the fourth quarter, and then he made some plays. So if he's able to get back into the game and maybe find a starting role against the Lions, then it's a good opportunity for him. But I know there would be some concern on the defensive staff's front just from what they've shown us so far and the trust that they put in DeMond Clark, because it hasn't really been there.
If it wasn't him, who would be that guy that you would see maybe stepping into that role if both Vigil and Kendricks are out? Is there another option?
You want to say it at the same time?
Go ahead.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Overshown? I think it would be Overshown.
I was struggling with it because I think it'd be Clark. I don't think it changes. But if
you said it was if Clark's not the one,
if Clark's not the
one,
then Clark's not the one.
Are you looking at those guys like Buddy Johnson and those guys?
I couldn't wrap my arms around it not being Clark.
Yeah.
But
if he's here, you got to use him. Right?
It has to be Clark. But if they don't, he's right. Overshown would be the guy. I just couldn't wrap my arms around it not being anybody other than Clark.
They did talk about Malik Hooker at training camp picking up some green dot responsibilities on days that Kendricks was not practicing and things like that, just to get him comfortable with it. So don't discount that option either.
But it's weird being so hesitant about feeling confident in how he can perform in there, because we've seen him. You mentioned last year, Derek. We've seen it last year.
Talking about Clark?
Yes.
Okay.
And even prior to him getting all the opportunities that he got last year when he was coming back from the injury and all of that, we talked about him so much, and we've seen the talent, his ability. And I don't think that's something you just lose so quickly. He has it in him, and maybe it is those things where he's missing those assignments that he can maybe find the new fire in him. And like you were mentioning, Nick, this is the game that kind of gets him back into the mix and show what he can actually do. But we know he has the talent to do the job.
What happened last year when Van Der Esch went out to him? What happened to Clark?
His play suffered, I think.
Yeah. He needs somebody
Other people around him.
He needs people helping him along.
Absolutely. He was asked to do a million things.
Yeah,
last year.
he's and again, I love the kid. I really do. But, you know, if they're not sure about you and your assignments and stuff and being where you need to be, we've said this a bunch when Mike first took the gig. They're not going to play you. They're just not. He has to have trust in what you're doing and your assignments in order to make that work.
One other thing of note, and we didn't bring this up yesterday, but I had it in my notes. Detroit is a team that uses a lot of 12 personnel. They are right now 4th in the league in the amount of times they use 12 personnel. It's 1 running back, 2 tight ends. At 28% of the time, almost 29% of the time, they're in 12 personnel. That's a pretty big clip. That being said, you would expect Dallas is probably going to match that with their base defense. You wouldn't think they're going to put a nickel out there against a 12 offense, especially for a team that likes to run a lot. That being said, they're going to need 3 linebackers at least a lot in that game, I would think. And so that's where this becomes a little very interesting for
You're
the Cowboys.
about to play a team that runs more base defense than you do, which is – and this Lions team will play base against 11 personnel and 12 personnel.
That's interesting.
And they do it because they trust Bryan Branch, their safety, who is also like a corner. Like he can play. Like, you know, they have 4 legitimate guys that can cover. It's much like what you're about to experience with, you know, we'll see with Carson and how with Bland and his health and all that. But they can afford to play base because they got 4 legitimate cover guys, you know, and they can match you. And we'll get into Bryan Branch because I have a feeling that's where this thing is going to go to try and take Lamb away out of this game, but also try and take Ferguson out of this game too, with Bryan Branch being that guy.
All right, we're going to take our first break. We'll come back. We're going to dive into that Detroit offense. We'll back
Defense?
I'm sorry. Detroit offense. Sorry. Detroit offense today, right?
It's the defense.
Detroit defense.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Defense.
Detroit,
I'm sorry.
Defense.
I looked at them. I'm looking.
You're good.
Yes.
You're good.
Detroit defense. We're going
Get
to
your
Detroit
act together,
defense.
Derek.
I'm
Sorry,
ready
my
either
bad.
way.
I think you're good.
My bad. Detroit defense today. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change. A proud partner of the Cowboys is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side. Licensed Yeti Cowboys gear is now available at Stadium Pro Shops, concessions, and on Yeti.com. Check it out today. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys.
Back to the break.
LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take Derek's word for it because he just keeps messing up. So don't trust him, but trust Digital Trends because they said the LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Welcome back to the second segment of the break. We can turn that microphone off now.
I was wondering if we should
we're good.
consider the same for you for your opinion on the corn dog.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She has a horrible opinion on that. She says Texas State Fair food is not impressive.
It's not that impressive. It is not, and I'll say it. I think people overhype it.
That is a horrible take.
People overhype it. I don't think it's that great.
I wonder, is Craig Gleeber's brother still the president of the State Fair?
He is. Yeah, I think he is. I think I saw him on TV.
I never knew that.
I think I saw him on TV talking about it. Talking about
It's
the State
great.
Fair.
Yeah.
It's great food.
That would be teammate on teammate crime right there.
It's crispy. When all that fried food's so crispy and tasty.
Deep fried everything.
When your teammate's brother
everything.
is the president of the State Fair and you're over here trashing the great State Fair of Texas.
Trashing is a big statement. I just said it's overhyped and it's not that great.
It's not. Fletcher's corn dogs, I'll put them up there with anything.
Well worth it.
Yeah.
Well worth it.
Well, keep enjoying it then.
We will.
We will.
Sounds
I'll
good.
be out there next week.
Spend all your money on that.
I will. I absolutely will.
$500.
I will. It will be great. It will be fun. All right, let's jump back in. Brian, let's talk about this Detroit defense.
Yeah.
So the first thing I noticed was they are 27th in pass defense. As much as we talk about all the things they do really well, they have given up a lot of yards in the air. Where are they most vulnerable in their secondary?
Well, if you block Aiden Hutchinson, they don't have a pass rush. That's really where they're at. They're near the bottom of the league when it comes to pressures without him. I mean, he's one of the best players in the league when it comes to pressures. And you watch the game and you watch how it progresses in these teams. You know, they give him a lot of attention. He's a chip and now block the tackle on him guy. He's that good of a player. But if you find a way to control him in that part of the game, and he'll move around, Ambar, he will move around. So he will take a rush on Steele, and then he'll go on the other side and take a rush on Guyton. So there's really no real rhyme or reason why. They just kind of hunt some matchups. But you got to be aware of him. Where's number 97? And they don't really have anybody else. I mean, they've struggled. They've struggled to get a pass rush. They tried to do that through free agency. They lost a couple of guys due to injury. Derek Barnes got hurt in the Arizona game, and he was a good pass rusher for him. Marcus Davenport is a guy they signed as a free agent. He was going to play opposite. He's on IR, so they really don't have anybody opposite of Hutchinson to be able to do that. So this is where all of a sudden you have a little bit of an advantage. Don't let one guy kill your passing game because he can kill your passing game if you let him.
To that point, real quick, Hutchinson last year had 4 pressures and 2 sacks in 26 snaps versus Steele.
Yeah.
That ain't a good clip for Steele.
No.
Is there anything that you've seen as far as Steele? And I think we all agree that Steele, as the season wore on last year, he got better. And this year, I think he's better than what he was last year. Do you think that there are parts of his game that have improved to the point where some of that can be cleared up, or do you think this is just still going to be a challenge for them?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
That's a good way to put it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because there's moments, and I think both tackles are that way. I think there's moments, maybe on the left side, a little bit more of a hold on to your rear kind of a thing. But, with Steele, there could be 5, 6, 7 great plays in a row, and then the one time that he gets off balance, he maybe kicks too wide, thinking he's going to have an edge rusher, and then the rusher goes down inside. You just got to be – he's got to be aware of that. He's also got to know that when you watch the Lions play, Hutchinson will rush inside if they have a blitzer that's outside. So if there's somebody standing outside of him, he's got to kind of be aware that maybe this guy is going to rush inside on me, because you're not going to have two guys rush the same gap. You're going to, and Hutchinson plays – you thought that Watt played wide last week. You'll see how wide this guy plays. He gets way out there. So he's going to challenge you to be able to handle him playing from that wide technique. But Steele, it's you just know that every game there's going to be 1 or 2 snaps where it could probably end up in a sack, or he's going to give up a pressure. And it's the nature of playing against guys like that. You're dealing with somebody that's an outstanding pass rusher, one of the best young pass rushers in the league.
Yep.
So you got to help these guys a little bit. Maybe this is a game where kind of sneak around a little Hunter Lipke, motion across, boom, pick him up, line up over there, help. Everywhere. If I knew going into this game, which I know watching the tape, and I'm sure these guys across the hall know, 97's the one that's going to kill your game. Everybody else we could handle. Mm-hmm. Everybody else we can handle here. So make sure you take care of that guy first.
Let's assume they get that done.
Yeah.
Where are the points of the secondary where they could have best success?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. They've got a rookie corner playing right now that's everybody's kind of on, Tyrion Arnold, that people are kind of down on. Actually,
from Bama?
Yes. Yeah, he's a really Dallas. They've traded up to Dallas's spot to draft him. He was on a lot of boards. I know on my board he was the first corner from that I had, the number 1 corner, and he fell all the way down into the 20s.
Why?
Or I had him too, but yeah.
Why do I have no idea.
Yeah. I think that was the nature of everybody drafting an offensive guy. The first round went so weird last year.
It's just one of those things where the thing just gets going. And
I don't think it was ability. I don't think it was ability at all. I mean, it was a deep draft for corners, and maybe some guys had some guys higher than him. I sure didn't. This kid's a really good football player. But where people have taken advantage, now last year when you played this team, they were completely different at corner. They had a guy named Cameron Sutton that played corner, and you lit him up.
Yep.
He had no chance. Every target at him was a big play. And they realized that we can't play that way. So they went and traded for Carlton Davis from Tampa. We're familiar with Carlton Davis. He's played against the Cowboys before in games in Tampa. He kind of had some mixed bag doing that, that kind of the coverage at Tampa. But they drafted Arnold. They traded for Davis. It's a completely different group now in the secondary. And like I mentioned, that's kind of where I would go. Carlton Davis, if you look at the balls that are thrown at him, if you look at him now, this group is good with their tight window throws. I mean, I was like, man, they're close. You kind of check that number. They're like 5th, 6th in the league when it comes to tight window throws. That shouldn't bother Dak. He gets more tight window throws than any other quarterback in the league. His guys, they're tight window guys. Yep. So where I would go though is quarterbacks have had some success throwing the ball at Davis, even on some tight window stuff. The rookie, is giving up some plays. I think the rookie Arnold there's some separation at times with his games. But both corners have kind of been picked on a little bit more. And I think Davis gets picked on the most of the two, and he's the veteran guy. Their safety, or their nickel Robinson, is another player that was added. They got him from the Raiders. He's a tight window guy, but he'll lose some separation and contact occasionally with you guys. I mentioned Brian Branch. He's the safety. He was a corner safety at Alabama. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for how good of a football player he is. No. And he could cover you in the slot. He can and cover you well. He could cover a tight end, no problem. So I wonder how they're going to play against Lamb in this game. And if they find a way to kind of double with like Joseph the safety and then one of these corners, and then take Branch and put him on Ferguson, and then say, okay, Tolbert and everybody else, you got to beat us today. but if they don't get any pass rush, and as I mentioned, they play a lot of base. They play primarily, they're well over 50% base of the way they play. So, and Dak Prescott, I looked this up because I'm like, okay, here's a number, 50% base. That's the highest of anybody in the league. Dak, 60% win rate against base defense. Hasn't been sacked this year. And the numbers, like I say, that league average, I think, is 48% of success. Dak's at 60. These guys play base against him. That's a good matchup for Dak Prescott.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking at this defensive line, if I could also highlight one other guy that I think could be a problem. They move this guy up and down the line, a piano player, if we call back to draft show. Aylin McNeil, he's a guy that rotates in. You won't see him start the game necessarily.
Kind of a bully.
Yeah, you might see him start the game with a couple of these injuries that they have up front, but I think he's going to be a guy you definitely see rotate in. You'll see him inside. You'll see him outside. They will move him up and down, and he gets after the quarterback too. 8 pressures so far in 3 games, at 315 pounds. He's a guy that is big in the middle, and he can make some things happen. And then also in the run game, they do have Derek Barnes on the IR, which will help as far as the Cowboys go trying to get into that second level. But don't discount Malcolm Rodriguez out of Oklahoma State. That's still a really powerful guy. Also came in that same draft class as Aiden Hutchinson. So and you factor in Hutchinson's ability to defend the run. It's going to be tough for this run game still. And I think Brian Branch, when you factor in safeties that can play the run game, he's top 5 in the league in my opinion.
He
not only does it
so
well in coverage, he does it well in the run game.
I think their linebackers, to me, throwing the ball against these guys is the best chance because, again, I think the pressure, you got to find a way. We mentioned about Hutchinson, the corners, the possibility. These linebackers, Anzalone and Campbell, they play real tight to the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, they're physical up front. They're going to try and beat you up. But these linebackers do a really good job of filling, getting off blocks, making tackles. You'll see occasionally every once in a while Campbell will miss a tackle. But, man, it's just such a physical front seven that you're dealing with. But running, I think, is going to be difficult. I thought running was going to be difficult against the Steelers.
Yeah.
They came out and did a pretty damn good job against them, last week doing that. So, but, man, I think the path to victory in this thing, if you had to, is throwing the football because I'm just like I say, block the front and let the Cowboys receivers work against the secondary a little bit.
One of the things that stood out to me as I was looking at this team, they are right now, obviously we know they're a good run defense.
Yeah.
But in their last game before the bye, when they played Seattle hit them for 133 rush yards. What did Seattle do in that game? Was there anything specific that they did? They were on the edge.
They were on the edge.
Is that something? Did they do things that the Cowboys have shown any sort of propensity to be able to replicate?
Well, it a lot of the inside handoff, the read option stuff. It was snap. It was orbit motion. It was spin, turn, and hand. It wasn't like your traditional lineup. But they took the ball and tried to create ways, whether it was toss or whether it was motion and then come back and then toss it. But they knew that going out on the edge was their best chance of running this football.
Right. And they were successful.
And they were successful doing it,
Yeah, so I guess that could create some sort of opportunity for the Cowboys.
I think these guys are big. When you talk about Reeder and McNeil inside, they've got big body guys.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you have to kind of worry about, and we saw it a little bit with the Steelers. I felt like mashing the edges was going to be, some of the success you had, but you did a pretty good job of handling the inside of the Steelers guys. But same challenge again this week. I think the linebackers here, though, present a little bit of a different problem for you running the ball.
You probably want to attack the edge that Aiden Hutchinson is not on.
Yeah.
I will say Josh Paschal.
He's an equally good run defender as pass defender, right?
Josh Paschal, you want to be able to attack him.
Right.
I think he's easily the worst run defender on that line. Not that he's a bad run defender, but I just wouldn't call him. I wouldn't call him average. So he's somewhere below that range.
One other thing I was going to ask you on the how the Cowboys should attack them. Knowing that Aiden Hutchinson is there and he can create that pressure, would you say that this is a game where you would lean more heavily on maybe spreading them out and just quick passes, get the ball out really quick, or would you opt for more max protect where you keep more guys in with the opportunity to give Dak a little more of an opportunity to get downfield, maybe make some big plays?
I worry about the quick game because of how much press coverage they play. They're going to play man coverage on it. They went from being a team that played a lot of zone last year because those corners were not good.
Right.
So they had to. They have a lot more confidence in Davis and then Arnold and then Branch and their ability to cover. They have a lot more. So they're playing a lot more man coverage. if they're up on you, I don't know how much quick passing game you're going to get off. If there was a team that played like last week, the Steelers played a ton of zone coverage against you. If you're getting guys playing off, that's to me with a quick passing game. They took advantage of, the space because those screens and stuff that they threw because the corners were backed off there. So I would tend to lean towards max protecting this thing and try to throw the ball.
I think there could be a little bit of success in the quick game just because I think back to last year against the Lions. Again, there's a couple of different faces in the secondary, but it's still the same bread and butter at the end of the day. And you see CeeDee getting 13 receptions for 227 yards, and that was more of a product of the quick game. And so I think if they can line him up in situations where he can kind of get some freedom, which that's a little bit different this year, especially motion, that would be a little bit different this year. But
Brian's just shaking his head like, we'll believe that when we see it, right?
All in all, I think you got to be able to find ways to scheme CeeDee Lamb open on one-on-one coverage, because we look at these second half stats: 4 receptions for 25 yards in the entire second halves of games this season for CeeDee Lamb. They got to be able to get him open. They got to be able to identify some matchups that they can key him in on, whether that be one-on-one with Terry and Arnold or one-on-one with Brian Branch. Just put him one-on-one with somebody and let him go make a play. That's why you pay him the money you do.
If I told you that his targets, and I looked this up because I was curious. If I told you his targets in off coverage is half of what it was last year, would you believe me?
Shocking to me.
I would believe you just from the fact that it is.
This season, he's had 11 targets in off coverage, 6 catches. Mm-hmm. That's half of what he had. His targets against man are the same as they were last year, trending that way.
Are we talking about this point last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Trending up for the targets against man coverage. Off coverage, half the targets against. Tell me why.
You think that's a product? Are you saying number-wise or percentage-wise?
Both.
Okay. You think that's a product more of just more man defenses these first few weeks, or
it's the same? It's funny because to me, I'm trying to figure out. To me, getting him the ball on the move and off coverage and letting him run after catch would be my goal.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've got half of the targets, like at this point in time, he had 22 targets, I believe. 22 or 23 targets against off coverage at this point. And now we're still at the point where the offense hasn't done the everybody losing their mind bit, But then we get, after the San Francisco game. But the fact that he does it, that they're not throwing him the ball more in off coverage, I have no idea why.
Well, the other day when you asked, you weren't here, Nick, but when you were asking questions, it was on Tuesday, and you asked Derek and I, should fans be worried about CeeDee Lamb? And it led me to thinking, because of how you answered that, Derek, you were, well, defenses are paying more attention to him, and now that creates more opportunities for everybody else on the offense. And it led me to think, I'm like, okay, then what was the difference then last year, during that second half of last year, because he was the one still catching balls all the time, and you can't tell me that defenses weren't trying to take him out of the game either. So what's the difference this year versus what was happening last year?
I'm trying to figure out why the off coverage numbers are down. To me, that's the best time to throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Yeah. Let him get the ball with some separation and then magic. That kind of thing.
I think there was more respect for the other receivers involved because Brandon Cooks really started to heat up along the second half of the season too, and I think that opened up a lot of opportunities for CeeDee. I don't necessarily have a question for your answer for your question, Brian. I don't.
That's because that's shocking.
Whenever he does get a ball in off coverage, whether it be like a quick hitch, I love the ability of him to be able to catch the ball and then just kind of wiggle and be able to kind of like look around his shoulders and be able to
his spin
to find. It's elite. It is a move for him.
That doesn't. And so just to be clear on that, Brian, are you saying that the same number of opportunities with off coverage are this year as last year?
Yeah.
They just have half the number of tries when they've taken advantage of it.
They have. I'm working on Mysteries Without Any Clues. I'm that Bob Seger song right now. And I'm trying to kind of figure out. Let me, if you go to break, I'll go to break. I'll come back and I'll read you exactly what I learned about this.
All right, let's do it. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll hear what Brian has to say on that. We'll talk a little bit more about that topic. We'll also get into a couple of offensive guys that I want to get some player evaluations from. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a Pepper thing.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T, connecting changes everything.
That's all you got, huh?
That's it.
All right.
That's all you need
Welcome
with
back.
AT&T. They're so trustworthy and good.
That's all you
It's
need.
simple, yeah.
Just AT&T.
Don't trust
You just
our
say
word for it.
AT&T.
Yep.
It changes everything.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at Star. Let's continue our conversation real quick. This segment's brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, Brian, you were telling us before the break. Go ahead and clarify. You've looked up some information.
I did. This is where I pulled this from. Okay, and this is because it was relating to Lamb, and I was curious, and then I saw this note because it had to do with the Lions. And the Lions have aligned their outside cornerbacks in press coverage about 34% of their snaps this season. That's the fifth highest in the NFL. So they're going to play press corner. That's kind of their bag. The matchup. CeeDee Lamb has stayed effective against press coverage this season, recording a near identical target rate, 27%, and yards per route, 2.8 to last year. So that's very similar against the press coverage. Lamb's drop-off in performance has mainly come against off coverage, where he has just caught 6 of 11 targets for 58 yards. His target rate has been cut in half against off coverage this season. That's 14% compared to last season's 30%. So that's where we're at with that.
Well, it sounds like it's not as much of a problem this week because they play a lot of press coverage, and that's what he's doing well against.
Yeah.
So,
but you wonder why are they facing off coverage in the second half of games?
Fair.
And he's not getting the opportunity in the off coverage that Dak's throwing the ball to other guys in off coverage that he feels like might be a little bit more open. I
wonder if this is just me theorizing out loud. Most of his action last season was in the quick game. I think this is just kind of a guesstimation, but I would say probably 60% of his completions last year were quick game. It was slants, hitches, quick curls. I mean, it was quick outs. I mean, he was getting the ball quick. So I wonder if defenses have identified that, looked at it, and be like, okay, if we play more off coverage, and that gives us a little bit more leverage to be able to play in front or keep CeeDee Lamb in front of us if he were to run those quick quick game type routes. And then, you know, if Dak Prescott sees that, then he's probably looking elsewhere. So that's just me theorizing out loud, though. But I do wonder why the target share is cut in half compared to last year, because that same problem would have still existed last year. So I don't know. That's interesting.
That is a baffling stat, but you know, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I still think that part of what we're seeing at the early part of this year is not really an adaptation, because I think Dak and CeeDee are I think they're on the same page. They've played enough together. I do think timing, though, is a part of it. When you don't go to training camp, I think timing can be a part of the issue. And so I do give a little bit of deference to that. I don't know if it would make that big of a difference where, you know, you cut in half the number of opportunities you're getting in off coverage. But I do think that's a part of it.
At what point do we stop referencing training camp?
Well, no, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be corrected at this point. It should be corrected.
Man,
sounds good.
My point is, though, the numbers in the first 5 weeks could have been affected by more so even week 1, week 2, week 3. And by now, it may not be as effective. But we're looking at numbers over the entire first 5 games, which means it could be skewed a little bit because early on they were having some of those challenges. My question would be, on a week-to-week basis, what does that look like? And every week, has it gotten better? My expectation is it should, if that's the problem. If the problem's really about timing, it should get better every week, right?
It should, especially with 2 veteran guys, 2 professionals, 2 guys that have been, I mean, you look at how they were last year during that second half of the season, and you would expect it to be a lot better. So it's interesting, and I agree. I think we all agree at this point that him missing training camp has affected his game. But at the same time, it's like, we're week 6. Dang it, I said it again. 6.
We are. It's a good point, though.
Week 6.
I think even more so, not only, I think if we are attributing some of this to CeeDee not being at training camp, I think there's also a little bit of attribution that I think needs to go towards the offense not playing in the preseason, because we saw this last year where they had a slow start and you saw rhythm and things that weren't quite developed, and then they didn't integrate motion. They didn't integrate a lot of things until after the bye. I was like, okay, then was before the bye your preseason then? If only you had 3 games to work those things out. But, you know.
I mean, honestly, you look across the league, we saw first couple weeks, scoring was down, offenses weren't going. I really think that's a function of across the league, teams not playing their starters during the preseason. I think what's happening now, and if they move to 18 games, I think it'll happen even more, is the first few weeks of the NFL season really is a preseason. And so you're going to be kind of just struggling to make it work those first few weeks. And then you start getting on your roll, and then you start really figuring out what works for you.
Look at the 2 teams that are 5-0 and see how much their starters played in the preseason. That's all I got to say.
Were they teams that played a lot?
Not a lot, but they played. You know, like Mahomes played quarters. Like he played quarters at a time. Darnold, those guys, they played quarters at a time. So it's wild.
There was a time where I would have fought you on this.
Now you're
realizing I can't fight you anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of people out there listening right now, and like, "Oh, say something, Broaddus. You're the one that always says that the practices against the Rams were," and I do think they were beneficial for because you can control, and Dak got basically 200 snaps against a first team defense, and he didn't get hit in any of those times.
You also saw a lot of questionable plays there.
No question.
That you're like,
no question.
We might not be as good
and
as
there's a side of me that the scaredy player personnel guy. That's me. I'm the scaredy player personnel guy.
And I
don't want anybody to get hurt.
And I think whenever Tyron Smith had that injury a couple of years ago, even though it wasn't in a preseason game, but you also call back to Romo having his preseason injury way back when. I wonder how much of that is just kind of PTSD from preseason injuries. Yeah, I do think about that. You mentioned Dak not getting hit, but a Rams staffer did. So there was still physicality.
Yeah, there was physicality involved.
You had to bring that up.
I had to. It was the first thing that popped up.
It was a crazy damn thing when it happened.
Messy, man.
It was hilarious. Well, not hilarious. Well, it was. He was fine. He was fine. So it was funny.
All right, real quick before we end the show, I did want to get an update on what you guys saw from Cooper Beebe in this last game. We haven't talked much about him, but how has his progression worked out? I know we talk a lot about Guyton. How much has Beebe progressed now over the first 5 games of the season?
Well, I will. There's a quote from Mike McCarthy directly from the press conference going on, I think, right now. He had said that Cooper Beebe, through the first 5 games, quote, has done a heck of a job, and he is, quote, 272% better at snapping since the start of training camp. So
272.
Yeah,
I would have said 273. But
he's a big
that's
analytics
good.
guy. Yeah, he's got a huge analytics team, so they put that number
They
together.
do have a lot of them.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Seats on the
How do
flight.
you get to that number? How?
Analytics. Analytics.
I feel like you're right. The calls, it just doesn't seem to be, the snapping part of it we were kind of worried about. The calls appear fine. You haven't seen any major busts or anything inside. It's where they've had problems. It seems like it's been more on the edges than inside.
Yeah.
So you got to give a tip of the cap to him. The one thing he's got to do, he's got to learn this. It's like he has got 2 Pro Bowl guys playing next to him. Shove that guy. Shove him and go. You can help this running game being up there blocking Angeloni or blocking one of their guys. Yeah, you're helping get the play going, but we need that guy blocked.
Yeah.
If we get that guy blocked instead of a 6-yard run, it might be a 12-yard run. He's got to do a better job of he's thinking so much of got to secure this guy instead of shove him with power. You got Pro Bowl guards that can handle him one-on-one and go. Get on the second level, and when that ball cuts right behind you, it's going to be a pretty play that we show on Sounds the Sidelines, DallasCowboys.com.
Yeah.
Make sure you get up on that second level and get those blocks.
One thing that I think will help Cooper Beebe in these next few weeks is Zach Martin's finally hitting his stride. I think he had a slow start to the season from my perspective, but that game against the Steelers and probably the second half against the Giants, I really liked the work that he's put together over the last 6 quarters or so.
Yeah, it was a stark reminder, Brian, as you were talking about Detroit and how they do that. They don't waste time. They shove, and they're off to the second level. And it made me think, that's exactly what I want Beebe to study and figure out, because if he gets that part of his game down, I think it's going to add a lot to this offense.
I went through and just looked at the metrics real quick, and in 207 pass snaps, he's only given up 9 pressures.
Yeah.
And 3 of those pressures have been one-on-one.
Right now, he's second among all rookie offensive linemen in pressures allowed, which tells you something across the entire league. That's a pretty impressive stat. So I think he's doing some good things. Like you said, I think it's a matter of how do you go from being pretty good to now being a real asset to this offense and this offensive line.
Yeah.
All right, we appreciate.
If I could, injury news just from the press conference. I'll go through it really quick. DaRon Bland came out of yesterday's practice, quote, good. Today will be a real test for him, according to Mike McCarthy. McCarthy also said Eric Kendricks will be limited today with his shoulder and calf issue. So that's really good, but he will start with the rehab group. Kalen Carson will be back with the rehab group today after being a full participant yesterday. So something to keep an eye on moving forward.
That ain't good.
No, that seems like a little going backwards for him, but going forward for the other 2. So we'll see where that all lands out. All right, till tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll wrap this whole thing up. Amber will have a segment for us. Some Yeti games tomorrow. Till then, for Nick Harris, Bryan Broaddus, and Ambar Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!